Today we're focusing on the best match of the AEW Continental Classic League, Bryan Danielson vs. Andrade El Idolo from AEW Collision number 26, December 9th, 2023, taped December 5th. These two delivered an excellent, intense, dramatic, hard-hitting, old-school-oriented match with modern moves thrown in. It was the first AEW match I've been truly invested into in ages. Several AEW matches are flashy and spectacular throwaway fun, but these two actually made me care about what they were doing, and suspend disbelief that Danielson's career was on the line due to Andrade's merciless attack to the surgically repaired orbital. Danielson has had an excellent in-ring year in 2023 at age 42, but also a really rough one physically, suffering a broken arm in June and a broken orbital in October. He was a little less slick and more sloppy tonight, most likely due to soldiering on through these injuries, which have obviously also thrown his body off and hampered his training. One great thing about Danielson is even though he wasn't at the pinnacle of his technical game, he's so smart he was able to craft a well laid out story match that wasn't as much about what he was doing technically, but instead showcased his heart, as he gave all he had to fight through the vicious and sadistic tactics of Andrade. It was ultimately the second best Danielson match of 2023 behind his technical classic with Zack Sabre Jr. from AEW Wrestle Dream on October 1st, due to what he was able to bring to the match from a mental perspective, and Andrade's best match of the year. Although Andrade was the technico here, and both men showed some sportsmanship and a general respect for each other, in the end a chance to win the new Triple Crown was important enough for each to pull out all the stops for, and Andrade is certainly in a better place physically than Danielson is right now. Danielson's selling of his eye was great, keeping the injury in focus but never in the comically over-the-top manner MJF employs to ruin his matches by making it impossible to suspend disbelief, which only serves to take me right out of the story he is purportedly trying to tell, and instead just laugh at his spastic theatrical buffoonery. At just 34, Andrade is a far cry from the amazing luchador we saw feuding with Volador Jr. in CML in his youth. Meanwhile, the always superior Volador Jr. has had an outstanding 2023 at 42 years old, including getting the best matches we've ever seen out of Rocky Romero and CMLL, despite Romero being a guy no one has taken seriously in years in his home promotion of New Japan, although that's largely due to Guido's typically silly, stagnant, and unimaginative booking. Having a Match of the Year candidate with Angel Del Oro at CMLL 90th Anniversary Show on September 16th, and an excellent match in New Japan with Templario on February 27th, among others. Andrade is still good even though he isn't the exciting high flyer he was before he bulked up, but these days he's delivering more in situations like this where he isn't the best wrestler in the match, or the one who is carrying things. His psychology was good here, and everything he normally does played that much better due to being directed at the injured left eye. This may be the only time in 2023 I talk about his side headlock in somewhat positive terms, but it's important to use the basic holds you are doing to tell the story as well, and Andrade did have the lock on Danielson's injured orbital to plant the seed for the more interesting attacks that awaited. The early portion was a bit slow, with a lot of feeling out because they were trying to ease into the storyline of a match that was going almost to the 20-minute time limit. The match got going when Andrade removed Danielson's eye patch and busted open Danielson's surgical scar tissue, cringe-inducing wrestling in the best uncomfortable and unsettling meaning of the term. They really began to amp up the stiffness, and Danielson wasn't exactly helping his own cause by constantly insisting on fighting back with headbutts that beat up his own orbital almost as much as what Andrade was doing. The key spot saw Andrade cut Danielson's tope attempt off with a big elbow to the eye. There was a truly gruesome spot where Andrade seemed to be setting up an avalanche-style move, but instead just gored his thumb into the eye and the cut around it. He did eventually go for a superplex, but Danielson broke it up with another headbutt with the bad orbital, and came back with a missile dropkick before Andrade was able to execute the superplex later on. Andrade eventually hit his spinning elbow to the eye out of nowhere twice, and was just bombing elbows with Danielson down in the corner to set up a Meteora. Danielson kept hanging on through sheer willpower and determination, but Andrade eventually spiked him on the orbital with his signature hammerlock DDT for the win. Danielson was very clearly the MVP of the Continental Classic, with good matches against everyone in the block. Especially impressive compared to the dreadful Gold League, where even Swerve Strickland wasn't able to pull a good match out of anyone. The Blue League was quite enjoyable, but it's unfortunate AEW went to all these lengths to deliver a final, Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley. That is no up-and-comers or hot workers who normally don't get the push they deserve. Danielson versus Strickland, or Moxley versus either Andrade or Brody King would have been much more useful finals, especially with Swerve and King being hot now, rather than going back to a program Tony Khan dropped the ball on 3 years ago when Kingston was hot, and still in his 30s, even if just barely. I give this match 3.75 out of 5 stars.